Hey, the folks, welcome back. Yes, yes, yes. Right now, I get to talk to Roger Kimball. Roger, welcome back.
Thank you, Eric. It's great to be back. I feel
You
like I
are
was at the end of
officially.
the novel Ulysses there for a moment.
I
Yes, yes, yes.
I don't read modernist trash,
Yeah.
but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
River run past even Adams. I was just going to say
Yeah.
that. I was just going to.
Okay.
I was just going to quote Finnegan's Wake, and you're quoting
Uh,
Ulysses. How
uh,
crazy!
yes,
What
well,
is
there
it?
you are.
Plump something Buck Mulligan.
Stately, plump Buck
Stately
Mulligan. That's
plump
that's how it begins.
Buck
Yes, the
Mulligan.
Mulligan. Yes, a
Yeah,
big S, right?
and ladies and gentlemen, if you're tempted to read Ulysses, just skip it. Skip it. No, you're Roger, you're one of those people who probably could convince me Ulysses is worth reading because you're but I need and I need folks like you in my life because I'm at a point where I just sneer at all, anything
Right,
modernist,
right.
especially Joyce. I mean, Finnegan's Wake, what are we.
Yeah, but no, Finnegan's Wake really is a perverse literary experiment that has an audience of one, James Joyce.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit like John Cage's music. It's not music.
Yes, well,
It's it's
the thing is
self-indulgent.
that, but now you make me think more highly of John Cage because at least his 4 minutes and 33 seconds was 4 minutes and 33 seconds of silence,
Yeah.
whereas Finnegan's Wake is very long.
Yes. But the thing is you can just not read Finnegan's Wake, whereas you might find yourself stuck having to listen to 4.5 minutes of silence.
Yes, that's
I
true.
once made the mistake of going to a John Cage concert at Wesleyan University.
Ah,
Uh,
well, I could have told you, but
yeah, well, no, I was very young and stupid, and it's
right.
Wesleyan. So, but we've we've gotten far afield from the news, Roger. It's one of
Yes, we
the
have, we
reasons I
have,
love
we have,
talking to
we have.
you. Okay, so let's I mean, in some ways it's more fun to talk about the horrors of modernism. We actually listen, we can I do want to talk to you about um Obama's library.
Okay.
Um
Speaking of architectural excrescences, the thing about who was it
excrescences.
was I think it was Churchill, wasn't it, who says that we shape our buildings and then they shape us. I mean, this this monstrosity is it's an insult to the American people, almost on the level with the Obama presidency, which was
Yeah.
also an insult to the American people. But this we'll have with us for many years, presumably.
Well, we have to we should explain that modern architecture has fallen on hard times. And
Yes.
I think that who was it who said, maybe you'll remember, but somebody was talking about all of these modernist skyscrapers or buildings
Yes.
that they all had a some kind of sculpture. They said like a turd leaving a turd. I don't know if are
Yeah.
you familiar with this quote?
No, it sounds like it could have been Prince Charles or one of his speechwriters, like Colin Amory or something.
I
But uh,
well,
but but yeah, no, the thing about architecture is this is something that Immanuel Kant, the German philosopher, not a philosopher I'm a particular fan of, but he was right about this particular thing that architecture, it is an art, but it's peculiar because it has a foot both in the aesthetic realm and in the civic realm, which most art does not really. And a painting is a painting. It doesn't affect the larger civic realm, but architecture does, and therefore it needs to be judged partly by aesthetic standards, which, for example, Obama's library fails ostentatiously, but it also has to be judged by its effect on its community, according to which Obama's library fails miserably as well. But you're quite right. 20th century modernist architecture has it's a tiny little tributary off the main current of architecture that has turned out to go pretty much nowhere. And the big mistake was abandoning the traditional measure for architecture, which was the human body. So it's no accident, as our Marxist friends like to say that someone like Albert Speer, Hitler's favorite architect, he would build these grandiose pseudo neoclassical structures which would dwarf the individual rather than they didn't seem grand or stately. They seemed intimidating. To put the individual in his tiny little place, that is the opposite, for example, of what, say, Greek architecture or Roman architecture at its best did, which it didn't flatter people, but it was able to articulate a sense of stateliness, and somehow articulate and embody the aspirations of the culture, which very little modernist architecture, I think, manages to do.
It Beautiful architecture ennobles us, um,
Yes,
and ugly architecture somehow diminishes us.
that's
And of
right.
course, the worst example is brutalist architecture. I think of the
Yes,
City Hall of Boston. I remember in the 80s when I lived in
yes.
Boston, and whenever I would walk near it, I felt like a character in
Yes,
a Kafka novel.
you're
It
exactly right.
really,
In a Kafka novel. Yeah, well, the same thing, for example, in New Haven, Paul Rudolph's School of Art and Architecture at Yale is a brutalist building. It's this sort of corrugated concrete sided monstrosity. And Rudolph was so they tried to blow it up, and the student activists in the 70s, and they set up fires there and so on, and it survived. He was very happy about that. He thought, this will even survive a nuclear bomb. He said, but probably wouldn't survive that. But he
just like the cockroaches, Roger. Just like
exactly,
the
just like the
cockroaches.
cockroaches. Yeah, but it's interesting. You say beautiful. It is interesting, isn't it? That um, that the beautiful is no longer the term, the favored term by which we judge art, including architecture. And this is something that happened really quite a long time ago. But first of all, it was the interesting. We wanted art to be interesting. We thought that to ask it, to demand of it that it be beautiful would be somehow old-fashioned and insufficiently enlightened and so on. And that gradually mutated into terms like transgressive. We wanted art to be transgressive and challenging and so on. And it is a long essay could be written about tracing that itinerary, that sort of that downward path from the beautiful through the interesting to the transgressive. It is a trip of both aesthetic depravity and moral obtuseness, I think.
Well, it's interesting that the idea. I mean, look, I'm sure many essays have been written on this. I think many of them probably have been published in your magazine, the New Criterion. I mean, it's the story of the last century or so,
Hmm.
and I think that the idea was ultimately, when you talk about how brutalist architecture, or even Albert Speer's architecture to a lesser
Right.
degree, but how it diminishes a person, and how other architecture ennobles a person. Something happened, as we know, where artists began to buy into what we now can't help but think of as a culturally Marxist worldview
Hmm.
that has to wag its finger at the bourgeois. Uh, that's basically, it's kind of like a struggle session, and
Yes.
it has to tell you, bourgeois housewife,
Yes.
something, about your
Right.
comfortable life and how you can't possibly be. And I mean, look, you could look at the short stories of the New Yorker. Short stories used to be entertainment. And then at
Right.
some point, they began to sneer at the people who were reading them. And that's really the
That's right.
story of modern art, that it sneers at the people. Somehow,
Yes.
it's supposed to make you feel bad about yourself, or it's supposed to point out some uncomfortable truth, or something like that,
Right.
which, if you
Right.
think about it, it's kind of funny. We're going to go to a break here, folks. But
Yeah.
I'm talking to Roger Kimball. You should read the new Criterion. Roger, the new Criterion is a magnificent publication. I really and truly think it's the only thing that I receive in print in the mail that I really want to receive and read. There's so much good
Hmm.
stuff in there. When we come back, folks, talking to Roger Kimball. Folks, welcome back. Talking to Roger Kimball. Okay, Roger, we're talking about a lot of stuff here. What else?
Right. Well, just before the break, you mentioned the new Criterion in very flattering terms, and I just want to signal my feeling of admiration for your perspicacity and your good judgment about the new Criterion. But you were talking about how what has happened to art, to culture, how stories in a bourgeois publication like the New Yorker have over a course of many years have become just part of the factory of disillusionment, part of the factory of making people feel badly about themselves and about their culture. And the one irony in all of this, of course, is that the posture of being transgressive and challenging and super avant-garde has itself become a kind of rote exercise. So people who indulge in this, they have constructed our new salon, just like the salon taste that the early modernists were reacting against. So this post avant-garde culture has itself become stale and repetitive and boring, and it's still repellent, but it's no longer new. And that it reminds me of what Donald Trump is just beginning to do now to a major node of cultural aspiration and cultural um, uh, what would you call it, transmission, namely the Smithsonian Institution. All the beautiful people that inhabit the academy and the precincts of so-called elite culture in our museums and so on are up in arms because Donald Trump has had the temerity to say, you know what? I think we ought to take a look at what this Smithsonian, which gets two-thirds of its budget from the taxpayers, what are they? They are charged with preserving and transmitting the historical sediment of our culture. What are they doing? Well, gradually over the course of the last few decades, informed by the radicalism of the 60s, they have become an anti-American and anti-traditional value enterprise. And this is a huge thing. They have many museums. They have their tentacles out in 37, I think, states, research institutions, and so on. Much of what many American people think about this country is informed by the Smithsonian. What do they teach us? Well, they teach us, for example, that Benjamin Franklin, the thing you've got to remember about Benjamin Franklin is that he had slaves. Well, that's in an exhibition that's on right now. The Smiths, and then it just goes there's a whole menu of things that they're teaching. The basic idea is that the history of the United States is basically tantamount to a history of oppression. So, for example, Maureen Dowd, an editorial writer for the New York Times for a long time now, published an essay yesterday called something like Trump's Slavish Stupidity. And her point was that she likes the Smithsonian. She remembers going to the Smithsonian when she was a girl and she saw Dorothy's little red slippers from The Wizard of Oz, and she saw all kinds of neat things. And how could Donald Trump be attacking the Smithsonian? Well, that's a méchant uh, uh, attitude toward what Trump is trying to do. He's not against the Smithsonian as the nation's attic, as she put it. Um, and she says, well, Trump is trying to get rid of the whole history of slavery and so on. That's not true either. What he wants to do is, he says, the history of the United States does not equal the history of slavery. You know, uh, but
Actually,
in
before you go on, I have to
yeah,
say, and it's only because I'm writing a book on the American Revolution that I would know this. Benjamin Franklin ended up becoming one of the earliest advocates for the abolition of slavery, ladies
yes,
and gentlemen. Because I
right,
wrote a book on William Wilberforce called Amazing Grace, I know that Wilberforce in Paris in 1785, I think,
hmm
or 1784, Wilberforce met with Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin
hmm
Franklin, this is before Wilberforce himself took on the abolition of the slave trade. But that's what's so interesting here is that the left, and it is demonic. It's Satan, the
hmm
accuser. They always bring up the negative thing, the thing to make you
yes,
feel bad. They never tell you the rest of the story, that this
right,
man changed his views and became one of the greatest advocates for
right,
the abolition of the slave trade. And frankly, I am learning as I do my research for the book how dramatically George Washington's views changed
hmm
about Black people.
hmm
Incredible transformation over time. I mean, he was patently racist in 1775 when he goes up to Boston and sees all these Black troops among the
yep,
Continental Army that he's been bequeathed. And by the end of the war and by the end of his life, he has a dramatically different view, inviting the Black poet Phyllis Wheatley to
hmm
meet with him. Astonishing transformation. But the Smithsonian doesn't want you to hear that part of the story because it's too positive. We'll be right back talking to Roger Kimball. Talking to Roger Kimball of the New Criterion. Roger, before we continue on Trump and the
mm.
Smithsonian, um, in the latest issue of the New Criterion, there is an article, I forget the author, but it is about the New Yorker magazine, which a long time ago
yes,
was worth reading. But the New Yorker magazine has come out with, like 100 years
right,
of New Yorker fiction.
right,
And I
right,
thought to myself, this is something with which I'm reasonably familiar, the subject, because I used
hmm
to aspire to be a fiction writer, and I used to aspire to be a fiction writer for the New Yorker. And the article in the New Criterion, I just thought there is not a magazine in America, apart from the New Criterion, that could find someone to write an article like this. It was such an amazing
yes.
thing for me to
I
read that
believe that was
article.
by Bruce Bauer, is an extraordinary writer, a very very talented guy. He's written for the New Criterion for actually from almost the beginning. But he lives in like Norway or something like that now. But he's a very talented guy, and that was a great article. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's from
an amazing,
our June issue. Yeah, yeah,
amazing article. Yeah, just
yeah,
amazing. Well,
yeah.
anyway, so we're talking about Donald Trump. Let me just ask you, because this is for people, myself included, who aren't really clear how
Mm.
these things work. How is it that a president can, by diktat say to the Smithsonian, "Hey, we want you to do X"? How does that
Mhm.
work? And why do
Well,
they
he of
have to
course,
do it? I'm
of
thrilled, by
course,
the way, that he's
yeah,
doing it.
right.
Thrilled. But how is it that that works?
Well, of course, he's not really doing that. What he last March, he had an executive order that said it's time to return, I believe the phrase was truth and sanity to certain major American cultural institutions, including the Smithsonian. And he mentioned some stupid exhibition they had that was trashing American history. Um, uh, then what happened just a week or two ago was that um, uh, there was a letter signed by Trump's head of domestic policy, Russell Voigt, and one other person, writing to the director of the Smithsonian Institute, saying, we would like to conduct an internal review of your exhibitions, your curatorial policies, and everything, every public-facing aspect this vast empire that is the Smithsonian Institution, all the museums, all the historical repositories, and so on. And then they had a long list of things that they were concerned about. He said the idea was to bring the Smithsonian in sync with the positive vision that Donald Trump has articulated in the authority that he wields as president of the United States. And so it's not a diktat, and this is a review, a kind of audit, if you will, of the Smithsonian. And I think it's going to have an incredible effect, because he's sending a message not only to the Smithsonian, but to other institutions, just as he's sending a message to the Ivy League, to the Harvards and Columbias and Princetons and so on of our educational establishment. Listen, if you don't follow the law and get rid of the racist practice of diversity, equity, and inclusion, if you don't do that, we're going to cut your federal funds, and we're going to fine you. In Harvard's case, it's going to be $500 million. Even for so rich an institution, that's a fairly large sum of money. But you know, Eric, what's impressed me about Trump over the last, well, from January 20th on, really, but just taking last week as an example, he never stops. He's like the Energizer Bunny. It's, one moment he's in Alaska talking to Vladimir Putin, trying to get him to help end the war in Ukraine, where there's 1 million casualties, 1 million people have been killed or wounded in that conflict. Now, Putin was the one who invaded, so he's got to do something, but the other side's got to do something too. On Monday, that was on a Friday. On a Monday, he assembled the leaders of various Western European countries and the head of NATO and the head of the European Union. They all lined up outside his office. They sort of looked like school children outside the principal's office awaiting detention, in a picture that I saw. And now nothing came out of that particular meeting, but the point is he is trying as hard as he can every day to bring peace to the world. Then, a day or two later, it was the Smithsonian. Then, it's every day it's something else. Last week, the CBO told us that his tariffs are projected to cut the deficit by $4 trillion over the course of the next several years. That's amazing. We were told that tariffs would tank the economy and so on. Well, the stock market ended up 840 points or something higher on Friday. It's just one thing after the next. And today, he suggested that ABC and CBS, or it was a couple days ago, that ABC and CBS maybe should have their licenses revoked because they're partisan, they're biased. 97% of what they say about him, he says, is negative. Well, that doesn't sound accurate, does it? So, could he do it? I don't know. But if I were running ABC or CBS, I might take that. I take that seriously, because we've seen that Trump is a man of action, not just a man of words.
That's what's so delightful, is that he's throwing his weight around. People are freaking out, and it's entertaining, because it really is like you've had criminals terrorizing your neighborhood, and somebody moves in next door who's like a former Navy SEAL, and he's got guns, and they're scared.
Right.
And you think, well, I'm really, 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 really glad that they're scared. They should be scared. They have been doing wicked things, and they better think twice, because they don't know. He's crazy enough. He might come after them. And so I have to say that that's what's so delightful about, and other presidents have done this. I mean, to some extent, Reagan was like that. The other side didn't know what he was going to do. He's crazy. He's a cowboy. That's good to keep them on their toes. And so to have the Ivy League, to have these media institutions a little
Yes.
frightened, a little knocked sideways. That's fantastic. I mean, I think it's and I just love the fact that he plays with that. That he says, "Yeah, I might be coming into
Uh,
Chicago next week to
he's
what."
he's the best world's best troller.
When we come back, we will explore this and other things with Roger Kimball. Don't go away. Welcome back, talking to Roger Kimball. Roger, okay, Trump. What did Trump do in D.C.? In other words, he was perfectly within his rights to
Mhm.
revoke this home rule thing, right? So he just
Yes.
made a decision and did it,
Yes.
correct?
Well, yeah. So somebody who worked for Doge was viciously attacked, got a concussion. He said, okay, that's it. We're going to federalize Washington, D.C. I hope this leads to the revocation of the home rule that Washington has been suffering under since 1973. Since, I mean, the reason they call Washington a swamp is it's not just because it's physically built on a swamp, it's because it is a 98% Democratic readout. And that has to change. It's supposed to be neutral territory. The reason that Thomas Jefferson wanted Washington to be where it was that it was close to Virginia, but also he said, well, it's not southern, it's not northern, it'll be in between, and it won't be one side or the other, and that's the way it should be. But the home rule has exacerbated this one party rule in Washington. So it's extraordinary. I've talked to several of my friends in Washington who said that the change was like overnight. All of a sudden, this young woman I know, she feels comfortable walking from her apartment to her office now. She didn't used to, and she used to always take an Uber. Now she feels like she can do that. It's again this is one what he's doing in Washington, what he's claiming he's going to do in Chicago and other cities is amazing, and it's part and parcel of his cultural ambitions writ large. And this distinguishes Donald Trump from other great presidents like Ronald Reagan. Reagan was great. He ended the Cold War without firing a shot. He jump-started this incredible accumulation of wealth that we are still benefiting from today. But he never really took on the cultural establishment. Trump has. It's not just the Smithsonian. It's everything. It's the Department of Education. I happened to see Linda McMahon this weekend at a party, and she said, my goal is to fire myself. We're going to dismantle the Department of Education, but on the way, we're going to return education to the states, who will be in a better position to do it. It's not because Trump is anti-education; it's because he's pro-education. He's anti-teachers union, which is itself anti-education. And he's been able to do all this. It's just a remarkable what he's done. He's the peace president. He's the education president. He's the prosperity president, all rolled into one. And it's just to watch him operate. The man's energy is extraordinary. I think he's 79, and he acts like he's a 25-year-old athlete. It's quite extraordinary.
Well, he's a gift to this country, because I think to myself, what he is, and this is what our elected representatives are supposed to do. They're supposed to work hard for us, and he
Yes,
is. He's
yes,
working
yes.
hard for us, and he's using
Right,
his genius and his energy and his experience for us. We benefit. It's not Trump Inc. benefits. We
right.
benefit. It's an
That's right.
amazing thing. It's an
It is
amazing
it is
thing.
amazing thing. You're right. You're right.
We're
We're very lucky.
Yeah. Oh no. Listen, it's
Hmm.
and we know it ain't luck. It's God's blessing. We don't deserve it. It is. We're living through something miraculous. It is, of course, we're in a war, and so we have to keep fighting. We have to keep praying for the country and the president, because it is a war, and there are people every single day doing anything they can to stop Trump from doing the wonderful things he is. But I think the enemy's on the run. Roger, it's just a delight to speak with you. Got to have you back again soon, as I say it every time, because you're just fun to talk to. Thanks for coming on.
Yes, I really enjoyed it, Eric. Have a great day.